Welcome back to Competitive Edge, guys. This is going to be our episode previewing the second round of the Swiss stage here at the League of Legends World Championship. Esportsbet has some really good bonuses for you guys. They are offering raffles right now. To enter the raffle, you can do one of two things. You can comment below on this very video, and that will get you a raffle entry where you could win $20 USDT. They'll be giving out a bunch of those. Another way to enter, a better way to enter, is by putting $10 down on our match of the week, which is BLG versus T1. And if you do it that way, you can win actually double that. So 40 USDT. There's lots of raffles going on. You can also join the Esportsbet Discord, where if you go to their giveaways channel, you have a chance to enter raffles for like $500. And as usual, if you sign up with our code for Last Free Nation, you, of course, can get the 50% deposit bonus up to $100 as usual. So lots of good times. Play along for free with ESC and following Discord and the social media. So Twitter/X and Instagram will get you a bunch of esports coin, which you can play with for free as well. So lots of fun ways to play along over at Esportsbet right now. And we have some really, I think, compelling matchups to talk about this time around, given that we've seen all these teams play several games and we're getting into best of threes, which should hopefully get us some more consistent results. So maybe we should just go ahead and start off by talking about our match of the week, because Thorin, this is another one. We've talked about this all year. T1 fans and inflating the odds.
Love it. Love it.
It's some of the freeze. I mean, you guys have seen how well we did, like, you know, predicting some of the regular season results against T1. It felt like it was almost too easy. Like KT beating T1 the first time around in the summer split. Not in playoffs, of course, but this one just seems outrageous to me, given
It feels
T1's
like free money, doesn't it? BLG's too good, mate.
BLG's too good, and T1's level of play, like, there's no way on earth that they are a favorite. And T1 right now is at 1.686 to BLG's 2.031. If you've watched some of T1's games, they still have some pretty big flaws. This is a team that was threatened by Team Liquid, the team that was the worst team in the Swiss stage. That is such an indictment of this team. Like, Faker still doesn't really seem like he's back on track in terms of his champion pool either. Owner has been hit or miss. Now, he did have some very good games. He had a great game against Cloud9. But I am just not convinced by this team, especially when we've seen, like, BLG pull off some you know, pretty solid wins so far, including against KT, for example.
Problem is, all three of the traditional carry players in the team are better on BLG, and BLG's awesome at team fighting. So, if Team One wins this, by the way, I'll give them mad props, because they'll come with something I don't expect on the plate. But I just feel like BLG feel consistent to win this one. I love these odds, dude. 2.1s. That's exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, over 2.0. It just seems rather ridiculous. Like, if anything, this is one of those times where it's not impossible that T1 could win this, but also I think it was a different patch, it was a different time. But if you just cast your mind back, this was not a close series at MSI, guys. This was not a close series. The JDG series versus T1 was quite close. Yes. This one was not. And that was at a time when Faker was in a significantly better form than he is in right now. And T1 was coming off some really impressive performances in the course of the regular season. Now, they didn't win the title there, like the meta had shifted, but this felt like more, you know, prime form T1, and they just couldn't get it done versus BLG. So I guess I'm like pretty out on this team so far. And if we have to discuss clutch performances, how many times has been clutch versus Zeus at international tournaments? Obviously, Bin has been to many more, but Bin is always that guy when it comes to
forget he was on
events.
the RNG last year. Exactly. People forget he was on RNG. Just dumpstering him then. Yeah, exactly.
It was great at MSI. This guy shows up when it matters, and that can't be said the same of Zeus. I do think T1 will probably eventually make it. I guess it depends on their matchup if they lose this series. It feels really great. I mean, it always feels great, if I'm being honest, to go ahead and bet against T1, but
it's crazy to me that T1's the favourite, but I don't even really see where my edge is supposed to be. I'll give you an example. One of the least famous players on BLG is Jun, the jungler. People
Yep.
don't know this guy was second all LPL jungler. Like, he has no bomb. Like, Order isn't just some jungle gap. Like, it's actually hard to find an angle. For real, this is going to be a really good game, I think, for BLG, yeah.
Yeah, I also just want to remind people too that Shun also has an extra like bag of tricks. Like, remember that this guy is a Nidalee, he's a Nidalee player. He's a Kindred player, and there's kind of a dimension to his play. I mean, you could say, oh well, yeah, Owner has had some great poppy games and blah blah blah, but there's like a carry element, like a late game carry element. That comes out of the jungle, I guess early game in Italy's case, right? But with the Kindred late game, that just isn't as overwhelmingly present in some of these other games. So I'm feeling really good about this. I'm just going to go ahead and put 150 like straight up onto BLG here. I would be very, very surprised if they lost this, and those odds are actually fucking amazing for a team that I think is a heavy favorite.
Remember, I've said this on Something Insight. Some people think BLG is the second best team in the world, and spoiler, T1 in first.
Yeah.
So these are the edge. By the way, this is why we do this show. That's your competitive edge. We give you a 2.0 for the team that should win. Give me a break.
The T1 fans, I've never T1 is the team that always is way overinflated on this site. It is absolutely crazy. I would just love to see somebody's record of just consistently having bet against T1 in some of these matches over the course of this year. To be fair, they did lose very few, especially in spring. It would have been potentially hard to call that, but in summer, by the time they were in summer, some of those matches I think were a lot easier. Let's talk about the other Korea versus Chinese matchup that we have, because this one's really interesting in that LNG and KT. LNG is rightfully favored here, 1.595 to 2.183 versus KT. However, I don't think the gap is that big. And I might just be a deluded KT fanboy. And we talked a little bit about this on Summoning Insight, but LNG's been playing like a lot of carry tops, a lot of pick compositions. KT is the master of pick compositions in Korea. We could see a mirror battle of these pick compositions, and that is something that KT might be able to pull off an upset with.
Yeah, what makes this a brilliant one to bet is that KT is such a big underdog. Because since they're such a big underdog, there are win conditions all across the map here. Even like as we talked about on Some of the Insights, stylistically, it's a really sort of even game as well. So one of the things I've always said, it's the same in sports. Like stars can win you individual games, and when you have people like Keen, BDD, and Aiming, they can each win you a game. Like this actually should be a banger. So even though I would actually obviously, I think the odds are right. I would favour LNG. I think these are pretty big odds for I think the upset for KT. We've got to go for that, right?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Obviously, I'm a KT homer as well, so I just want to believe. I mean, I selfishly want to believe that this is a possibility that KT's going to get out in the 3-1 and they'll be looking good. The facts of KT are this: they had a rough start. I think they had a rough start to Worlds. Even their latest game against Weibo was a super clean early game, followed by 20 minutes, some plays that might have allowed Weibo to kind of get back into it in the end that were a little off-putting. I think if you're a KT fan, you would have liked to have just seen a nice, easy snowball to the win. But BDD's been getting better, and we know at the peak, like the KT ceiling is extremely high. It's extremely high. BDD and Keen, in my mind, were kind of neck and neck for LCK MVP of summer. How Lehens won, I will never understand, but there you go. And Cuz, who has been said to be a liability on this team, has actually been very consistent. Does he have the deepest champion pool? No. But when you have to do a lot of weird ban shenanigans against BDD a lot of the time, and we kind of do have a lot of must bans in this meta, I don't think his champion pool is going to get terribly pinched. And even though Viego isn't perfect right now, it still is a good pick for him to fall back on, as we saw in the Weibo game.
Yes.
So
it's wild that we've got these two where, like, again, these are games which should be so close, but the odds have just been pushed. So this is by the way, people, that's one of the secrets I had to learn about betting. It's not even about who you think will win. You just watch when the odds get really out of control and you find your angle. I think there's another great angle.
Yeah. If you think LNG is a favorite, well, maybe you think they're like a 55 or 60% favorite, but this gap is relatively, I would say, relatively severe for, to bolster KT here. So we'll go ahead and put 100 USDT onto KT Rollster for that upset win. give us a little bit more in case they end up with it. So we are, in fact, putting money on 2 underdogs, but one of these is a real underdog, and the other one is BLG, who should win.
They're actually the favorite BLG.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we correctly told you guys last week that G2 is not an underdog in this game against D+. Yes. This is a good European team being underrated against a, like, the difference between the top 3 in Korea and D+ was there's quite a profound like tier gap there, and it ended up happening. So, and I would continue to think about G2, especially if G2 later on actually hits. You know, if they beat NRG and then they get you know, if they get a like Weibo, for example, or even T1 potentially, like honestly. The best scenario probably for G2, if you want to bet on them, is they somehow get T1 in the quarterfinal draw, and then they have an immense T1 bias. Underdog. And like I think G2 could win that best of 5. So that would be pretty funny, actually, if we saw that. I think that is a winnable matchup for G2, and the odds would most likely be completely ludicrous on that game. All right, anyone you want to talk about next? You want to talk about Cloud9 Fnatic?
What we thought we'd do is, because as part of this campaign with Esportsbet, we've been doing it like, you know, here are Monty and Thorin's picks. The problem is we agreed on all the other picks. So essentially we were all going to be the same. So we decided we take one that's a close one and we'll take either side of it. So this actually is one where I think this is a very legit one where you can take either side. So let's do Cloud9 Fnatic. And I'm going to take Cloud9. Monty's going to take Fnatic. So Cloud9 is the favorite, but even then, pretty good odds as a favorite if you want them to win. So Fnatic's like an underdog, but not a crazy underdog. And I actually think if you look at the way the game goes, I could talk myself in and out of either side of this one. So what's your angle for Fnatic? Why is Fnatic going to win?
All right. So I've been liking the way we've at least seen Fnatic playing the early game. And they've actually been pretty successfully drafting in ways that are counterpicking in like a very European style of play, like having the Poppy as the Jax counterpick, relying on the Ivern. I think they put up a winnable game state versus BLG in their last game, and then they overcommitted to fighting when they should have just been happy taking objectives and walking away, and that was a pretty big mistake. But I also think that's kind of like a fixable mistake in many ways. We've all been waiting for the humanoid Razork 2v2 to finally work. It did work in the early game against BLG. They did pick up kills in the 2v2 skirmish. So there have been, you know, a little bit of glimmers of hope. Noah, he's been inting less. So I think there have been some level of encouraging signs from Fnatic and fixable mistakes. That said, I do think this one is still really close, and Fnatic is still, they're a lot greener in many ways than Cloud9. Humanoid hasn't been the best mid laner so far at Worlds. Is he going to be the one to really punish MNS? And always with Cloud9, we know Berserker can take over games. So if Noah has like an int game, then Berserker might actually be able to take over. I think that's my fear from Cloud9 here.
That's why I'm taking the Cloud9 side, because I actually think Berserker's the best player of the server. So I think already you've got a win condition there. I think Noah, sometimes it's not even that he always played bad. He sometimes just doesn't do much. It looks like he was a bit more passive. You have to remember he is not only a rookie, he's a mega rookie. He's played like a split. Played a split and then like a few Worlds games. Then let's add in one of the best players on Fnatic is Razork. Blabber's a pretty good counter to that, mate. He's also a very strong mechanical jungler. You can even that up there. And I'll just say this right now. I'm a fan of neither MNS or Humanoid. But I'll tell you what, Humanoid can definitely die to MNS in lane. He could get solo killed by him. Now, that might also be a solo kill that turns into an int from MNS. That's possible. But hey, I'll give it to MNS. At least he does swing for the fences every time, Monty. He doesn't have the best batting average, but he swings for that home run. So I'm going to say, screw it. I'm taking the NA side for this one.
Well, look, if they fix some of their drafting issues and they try and just like make Fudge play weak side and Blabber can pop off in the jungle and you've got a Berserker pop off game, maybe it's doable. I just think Fnatic's teamwork at this particular tournament has been better. And to me, Fnatic at least has put up more respectable showings against good teams. Like, think about that. The Cloud9 game they played against T1 was a fucking embarrassment.
Or garbage.
Yeah, it was truly, truly awful. And that's why I hold back a little on Cloud9. But I also just don't think that those particular mistakes are going to be repeated. So I expect a more competitive series. I think this is a 3-gamer either way.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, as we discussed, and you can check it out on Summoning Insight, we did go ahead. I think we put 200 on each of those sides of the matchup. So we'll see who it comes out. It's a little fun little guessing game for me and Thorn as we proceed through our bets through Worlds. We've got one last one that we want to talk about, which is going to be G2 versus NRG. Now, G2, obviously.
Don't overreact. Don't overreact. Just look at the odds before you overreact and go to the comments. Nobody is saying NRG is the favourite or going to win. We are looking at the odds, gentlemen. This is competitive edge, okay?
G2 is at 1.
I can only see this being clipped, you know.
G2 is at 1.156. Now, NRG's odds have gone down. They were actually over 5 while we were doing Summoning Insight, so people realized that this was probably good value. NRG is at 4.542. Now, for those of you who watch Competitive Edge, we got mega burned by NRG during the LCS playoffs because they kept pulling off the upset. There is a tangible clutch factor to this NRG team. It has to be stated.
Yes.
However, they probably aren't going to win versus G2. But with these odds, you know, G2 can have an off day.
You can't. You'd have to be really like, here's the one problem people have, right? Is people always overvalue. It's a bit like that thing in poker where, you know, your 2 starting hands, you can never really be like 95% favorite, even if you have aces against 7-2 offsuit. So as a result, right, I don't actually know the math on that one, but I think if you go look it up, it's not that bad, right? Basically, people always take like, but G2's way better. They're not like 85% better, though, are they? Like, the point is they can lose a bloody BO3 to NRG because, as we just said, NRG was supposed to lose every one of those matches in the playoffs. So I just think the odds are so crazy for NRG. It's a great flyer to take. And I tell you what, it's going to make the game fun, whereas it wouldn't be that fun otherwise. So it's going to give me, like, if somebody, like, by the way, I'll even give you another factor as well. Not only do they catch the throws, dude, they're decisive. Like, I love the shit, like that Parler Fox backdoor. Like, I love this stuff. At least they go for it, NRG. You got to give them, like, they are plucky. So I just think the odds make this a real fun one. If you want to take, like, if you want to sweat in the game, just put a little bit on NRG.
Yeah, plus, look, there's only 2 ways this can go, guys. So either G2 totally collapses and you make money and are happy, or G2 completely dominates NRG and you lose a small amount of money, but you're also happy because it looks like there's a decent ass team in the quarterfinals of Worlds from the West. So make yourself happy either way by betting on NRG. But yeah, these odds, there is at least, we've seen the bad G2 days. That's all I'm going to say. This year, we've seen the bad G2 days, and those days come along, and on those days, they can lose best of 3s.
And also, I'm sure some people watching this show, at least even nationality is American. NRG are the number 1 seed. What, are you just going to bail on them now? America, love it or leave it. All I'm saying is, you know, where's the faith? Where's the fucking faith, guys? Shout out Hotshot GG.
All right. I am, in fact, just going to put 25 USDT on this one because with the odds, the return would be 100.
We're not doing it to win. I know.
113. Yeah. So it's like a really nice, really nice flyer that you can take right here. But I think it's absolutely reasonable to take a flyer on this one, especially if you look at the rest of these. Like, GAM is at over 9. They are not going to beat D plus Kia. That is ridiculous. And Bad Lions, even at 6.451, and even though Weibo runs it down, I can't imagine.
They just show nothing. You can't believe in them, can you? Who can believe in them at this point? You know? Yeah. The joke is, if we took them and strapped them down and put the sodium pitfall on, they don't even believe in themselves. You can tell. Look at their faces, guys.
They don't actually make the decisive decision. Like they don't have the decisiveness as NRG. Like sometimes NRG has the decisiveness and they int, but sometimes, you know, they get something special done. They surprisingly won the LCS title. And yeah, sure, LCS teams have looked real trash this year, and G2 actually looked really good in Europe, and we predicted them correctly to beat some of these lower tier Korean and Chinese teams. But Okay, we'll leave it at that. There's going to be a lot of exciting matchups in the future, guys. We are going to be doing this, so be sure to subscribe here to the Esports Bet YouTube channel. We are going to be coming back with Competitive Edge through every phase. So after this phase of Swiss is over, we'll be able to discuss the quarterfinal, all 4 of the quarterfinal matchups in depth for you guys.
Comment for the raffle. Comment for the raffle
Oh,
below.
comment. Oh, yeah. And comment for the raffle, obviously, with your Esports Bet username. We will see you in just a few days to talk quarters.